This is holiness.
My God, 50 years? 50 years of the Oklahoma Conference of Churches. It's likely hard to believe there are people that are still volunteering with OCC that were here in the beginning. I love to hear the history from them, the history of programs, the stories, and the evolution of this organization.
Going through the OCC archives was really fascinating. It told the story of the last 50 years and more of our state, each time as OCC rose in response to address the events of recent history as a strong, united voice.
I am with you. That always. I look at 50 years of the Oklahoma Conference of Churches and even my service in it. I think one of the things that I can't escape is that it helped me to be more proactive in listening to others, in presenting the cares of my community, and then working on those things which really are still a disease in this community, but we made some progress. There are people who were impacted because of the conversations and because of the togetherness, because of the community that was derived from the Oklahoma Conference of Churches.
At any point in your life, you can kind of wake up spiritually. What I believe that makes the Oklahoma Conference of Churches so special is that it is an organization that reassures and reaffirms to everyone in the state of Oklahoma that whether you're a person of faith or not, and regardless of what faith tradition you follow, that you belong here. There is a place for you, you are valued, and most importantly, you are loved.
OCC was part of the original founding of the Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty. In the early days of the AIDS epidemic, OCC educated faith communities and started ministries. We celebrated the bicentennial of the U.S. Constitution. We advocated against the Vietnam War and other wars. We sponsored interfaith pilgrimages to the Holy Lands. And a huge component of our work was disaster response.
I began my ministry with the Conference of Churches in April of '95. And so for the first 2 months, everybody that I met had been a part of the bombing. And those were the stories I heard. That was what I took into myself about what ministry was going to be like in Oklahoma. And it did govern a lot of our plans. And my board right away said, we must be more than ourselves for this experience. We really need the interfaith community together. It belongs to all of us.
I say shoulders. Touch shoulders. Head. Ears.
For 50 years, the Oklahoma Conference of Churches has been a voice in our communities that has said, you all matter, and we are all in this together, and we can do something to bring about no hate in the heartland.
One of the things that we may not talk about enough is lowering the walls of resistance to talk with each other, to share with each other, to worship with each other. I think that was significant. I think the Oklahoma Conference of Churches was instrumental in helping us to cross some lines, the denominational lines, some racial lines, some community lines, that we had programs where you had denominations, you had cultures, you had races coming together. I thought in Oklahoma City, what a great thing that occurred because of the work of the Oklahoma Conference of Churches.
The day that the American boy blew up the Murrah building, it was assumed that that was a global happening. And so people in Oklahoma from other religions began to take the heat on that one. And we knew better. One of the projects we began together was an interfaith tour where we especially focused on the young people from our different religious groups. We didn't open it to the public necessarily. They could come, but we were focused on getting our teenagers together. And so the interfaith tour took a group of teenagers to several local congregations or different houses of worship around the city.
From what I have understood, the Oklahoma Conference of Churches, the purpose is to find these, throughout its 50 years, to find these places where hate is unabashedly alive and say, this is not right. This is not what God wants. This is not who God intends us to be, how God intends us to live with one another.
OCC is an organization that every state should have. It is an organization that respects all walks of life, all faiths, people of no faith. It's an organization that is compiled of that same belief, but it goes beyond that. It's not simply we accept, but how do we impact one another and how do we impact our community?
For me personally, I met people through that organization I would never have gotten to meet before. I was sent out to represent the Conference of Churches in countless organizations and meetings that wanted the church present. And so when they invited me, they acted like that was the church present. And so I got to be a part of a lot of different groups that were very informative and enlightening to me.
Happy anniversary, first of all, 50 years, and we're hoping for 50 more years to come. We might not eliminate hatred and bigotry, but perhaps together we could lessen it and we could try to reduce it to a minimal. This way our children and our grandchildren will live in a pluralistic society.
50 years, it went by like that, right? So let's move ahead to the next 50. Let's look ahead to how we're going to continue to change this state, continue to change the world, and continue to live into our faith as fully as possible here with the Oklahoma Conference of Churches.